Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest embarrassment for Boris Johnson as his hyping up of an imminent breakthrough on the post-Brexit US trade deal that he staked the entire project on disappears like a Cheshire cat once again. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So Boris Johnson basically threw his entire justification for Brexit behind what is now a very elusive free trade agreement with the United States. When Donald Trump was president, Johnson had high hopes for this. It was a grim prospect for us. I read the US proposal and it would have been devastating for our rights and freedoms, as well as standards of life. It was a deal designed to turn the UK into a cash cow for America. The NHS would be forced to buy drugs from American companies, even if it was much less expensive elsewhere. You had to prioritise US manufacturers. In fact, throughout our public procurement, you had to prioritise US manufacturers. And that would have meant for the NHS less access to pharmaceuticals, because obviously they have a budget, they can only afford so much. But that's okay, because it was also going to mean American-style privatised healthcare provided by US insurers and US providers. It meant accepting lower standards of food, to both undercut our farmers and endanger public health. It gave everything the US wanted and didn't provide us with any greater market access to the US. Defenders of Brexit would sometimes put out, this document was written by the Americans, before trade talks properly started. It's published in early 2019. It only represents the starting position of the US. Of course, they're going to ask for everything they want. The eventual deal would be very different. And I said at the time, absolute nonsense, because ordinarily, yes, the starting positions of each side is not what eventually emerges, but the Conservatives would be desperate to sign up to the deal quickly. They staked everything on Brexit, allowing them to get quick trade deals and a deal with America. And we now know this to be the case. It's no mere conjecture. We know it to be the case because the UK government has accepted all terms presented to it by everyone it has signed a deal with. Last year when we were trying to get something, we were discussing with Japan, and Japan was like, we're not really sure about this. Oh, we need a deal. All right then, well, only if you accept all these things. Oh, do we have to? Well, okay, we'll just come back later then. No, okay, we'll accept it. The EU, of course, same thing. If you look at the actual trade and cooperation agreement we signed at the end of last year, it looks very much like the EU proposals at the start of last year. And then soon Australia is going to be the same thing. They've all gotten deals that are essentially almost exactly what their initial position was. The idea that we would negotiate any harder with the United States, which is the one we prize above all others, or our government does, is a fantasy. It was the deal we wanted most of all. It was the only one that would allow Brexiteers to claim a benefit. It wouldn't be a benefit, but they would say that we got a trade deal with the US where the EU failed. And the thing is that a US-EU trade deal is a long way off. So they'd be able to keep this illusion, up for a while in a way that just doesn't work for other deals. Like, we can see our trade deal with the EU and we can see that it's not as good as the trade terms we had when we were members. That's obvious. Japan also has a trade deal with the EU and we can see that ours is not as good as what EU members have. In other words, what we would have had if we'd have remained a member. The same will be true of Australia. There isn't an Australian trade deal at the moment, for all the Conservatives talk of Australia-style deal. And yes, our Antipodean cousins have just pissed off France big time for no discernible benefit. But both Australia and the EU are serious about a trade agreement. There will be one, and the EU will get way better terms than we will. You go around the world and you can compare our post-Brexit trading arrangements with the major economies and then compare them to the same arrangements that the EU have, and we fall short every single time. We'll continue to do so. So they can print whatever they like in the Daily Mail and the Express. If there's anyone who's willing to just sit down and be shown the disparities between them, it's there for all to see. But because the US and the EU trade systems are so different, their total outlook is different. And because both markets are very powerful and don't really have to give much ground, and they both have top quality negotiators who know how to play hardball, it seems difficult to imagine anything other than, improved bilateral trade agreements, sure, between the two, But a full free trade agreement doesn't seem that likely in any time soon. So the UK would just claim the US trade deal as their justification for all the damage of Brexit. I mean, it would probably take years before the general population turned around and asked, what was so great with free trade with the US if it meant not actually increasing our exports, having to pay way more for healthcare, having food of unknown quality, because labelling laws have been watered down, and when our income falls even further behind our European counterparts. By then, the charlatans behind this nonsense would have achieved their aims, whether financial or political. But when Biden was elected president, pivotal moment for the prospect of a trade deal, Biden's friend, former President Obama, said the UK would be at the back of a queue for trade deals if it left the EU. Biden, as president-elect, said that he didn't want to be messing about with trade talks in general, not just with us, with anyone, until he'd put the US in a stronger position. He understood the need to be in a strong position to get a good deal. Now, I didn't feel that this mindset really works when applied to the UK, because we would take whatever was offered. We weren't going to strike a hard bargain. Biden could have put up a proposal to Johnson entitled, "We get everything, you get nothing." And our lunatic of a prime minister would have accepted it readily, and the media would duly present it as a Brexit triumph. So it really looked like Biden just wasn't interested in doing business with Johnson. But he kept plugging away, trying to ingratiate himself with a president who described him as a Trump clone. Which would be a compliment if it came from some quarters, but not from Biden. Recently, the UK government was talking up the prospects of a trade deal again. Perhaps they thought that their part in brokering a defence contract for the US with Australia would unlock the door. But no. So Johnson and Biden have met again. Reports are now saying that this is not going to be happening. We're just beating a dead horse. Apparently, even Johnson seems to be getting ready to give up and is potentially pursuing entry into the North American trade deal that includes the US, Canada and Mexico. Watch this, he'll be claiming that as the US trade deal he promised all along. It's a bit like with the oven-ready deal. Oh, don't vote Labour, they've got to negotiate all this stuff. We've got an oven-ready deal. And then they spent all the whole year last year negotiating this thing. It looked like we weren't going to get a deal at all. What happened to this oven-ready deal? Oh, no, I meant the withdrawal agreement. Oh, that was the oven-ready deal. Yeah, it was the withdrawal agreement. All right. And then this year, they're now trying to tear up the withdrawal agreement. So they just claim whatever is whatever. But one argument the UK are putting to the US, which I had to laugh at, as well as be deeply distressed. So the UK are putting this argument to the United States. They're saying, we now have closer trading ties with Canada and Mexico than we do with you guys. But this argument is one of those things about Brexit that really infuriates me. The arguments used by Brexiteers when turned around are always arguments for reversing Brexit. It's always contradictory. Every single argument for Brexit is completely contradictory. Like, consider this one. The UK is trying to say that it's ridiculous that the UK has closer trading relationships with America's immediate neighbours than with America itself. As if this is a ridiculous situation and needs rectifying with all haste. Okay, let's bring that logic close to home then. The United States has a closer trading relationship with all of our immediate neighbours than it does with us. If it is silly that Canada has a better trade arrangement with the UK than the US does, how come it isn't silly that the US has better trade terms with France than we do? But then you just need to look at global trade from America's point of view. Who are its biggest trading partners? The EU, by far and away. And don't give me all that, the individual countries nonsense. They don't negotiate as individual countries. They negotiate as the EU. If they're going to enter talks, they don't enter talks with France or Germany. Like our idiot Brexiteers thought they could do. They enter talks with the EU. Then you've got China, Canada, Mexico, ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, all ahead of the UK. And it's not a strict order. It's not just like a bit of variation. There's a gulf in the value of trade between the top and the bottom. And with all these other countries as well, the balance of trade is not in America's favour. They have a positive balance of trade with us. So the trading conditions they got with us are actually all right. It's therefore more urgent to look at trade with parts of the world where they're losing ground. We're just not a priority. Of the top 10 trading partners with the US, we are the one who buys relatively the most from them compared to what we sell to them. And it was clear from what both Johnson and Biden said that the current US administration is just not interested in the trade deal. You know, Biden was asked about the trade deal. Of course, journalists are going to ask about things. And he just said, oh, you know, there's stuff to do there. And that was it. He didn't want to talk about it. What he did want to talk about, what he talked about more clearly, was the need to ensure that the Northern Ireland Protocol was respected. None of this abandoning it nonsense. No, you've stuck by this. You've agreed this. You've signed it. You're going to stick to it. He made it clear that America, both Democrats and Republicans, expected Johnson to honour his Brexit agreements regarding Northern Ireland. I feel very strongly was a line used regarding this. Climate change also a hot topic of conversation, pardon the expression. Johnson forced to pretend he cares. He seemed to disown the various climate change denial comments he'd made throughout his entire life in order to try and convince us that he was a born-again environmentalist. But trade talks are not on the list. So there's no serious Brexit win to be had with trade. They can talk up the Mickey Mouse deals we get in the Express and the Mail all they like, but we can see that every agreement we sign gives us worse terms than EU member states have with that same market. Their only hope was the one major market where the EU would be unlikely to get a full free trade agreement, which is the United States. And even then, the EU still have better trading terms with the United States with their, because it's not like they have no deal at all, they have bilateral agreements. But, you know, now that this deal's off the table, except, like I say, that Johnson may cosy into this joint Canada, US and Mexico arrangement, I don't know how realistic that is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it is, I'm sure there'll be no discernible benefits and certainly nothing to compensate for what we've lost. But that won't matter. It will be sold to the public who don't fact check, that will just keep getting trade deals after Brexit. Because do you know what? Being an agile, independent trading nation is fantastic. We keep signing all these trade deals. And nobody will ask if there's a difference in quality of trade deal. A trade deal is a trade deal, apparently. But yeah, another easiest pie trade deal that's just not happening. Because that's what they said. Just like the EU deal could be decided over an afternoon over a cup of tea. The US trade deal was also going to be easy. If the EU trade deal was going to be the easiest in history, the US trade deal was going to be the second. You know, has anything that the Brexiteers promised actually happened? If it was all supposed to be so easy, because you notice that everything they promised was going to be easy. It's not just that it was going to happen. It was going to be easy. There were no difficulties to worry about. If it was all so easy, how come not a single Brexit promise has actually happened? But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.